Welcome, everyone. Sorry we're a little late in starting. We're going to get started. We can go a little bit over at the end. We're going to be talking today with Mike.
Yeah, good reason. That's what you need.
Everyone, please mute their microphones.
That mean me too?
No, not you. So this is a Q&A. So if you have a question you want to ask, you just hit the emoji screen and we'll get to your question. First, I'll have Mike introduce himself and we can get started. It's the pitching TV.
Yeah, I don't know who or what, or if anybody knows me or about me, but I've been writing mostly TV for a very long time, longer than I care to say. But here, hold on a second. Let me adjust my thing here. Okay, there. Yeah, I've been writing TV, since, I started, I did stand-up comedy, first of all, in 1980 in New York City, mostly at a place called the Improv. I moved from Connecticut to Manhattan when I was 20, so I was thrown into 1980s New York City. And so that's where I kind of learned about comedy. I did stand-up for 10 years, but along the way, I started writing for other comedians, including, I don't know who knows who, but like Rodney Dangerfield. I don't know if anybody knows him.
Yeah.
Wrote jokes for him. You know, I started small, just like, okay, jokes first. There was a comedian named Rick Taylor. I don't know if you heard of Rick Taylor. So that just started to build upon itself. So I just found myself writing more and more. I ended up working on Saturday Night Live, just on the Weekend Update. That was way back when Dennis Miller was doing that. And then I started to get and meet people there, build some relationships, and that got me my first job in Hollywood. It was kind of my goal. I felt like I didn't want to go to Hollywood unless I had a job waiting for me. And which is kind of an important lesson, first of all, is like whenever you can get in the mix of any place where there's sort of a hubbub of like showbiz happening and that sort of thing, it's all about relationships, really, to kind of start to entrench yourself into the business. But at an early age, doing stand-up, I realized I just did not want to go on the road. And I just taught myself how to write scripts. I just kept writing, and I wrote 3-4 scripts. I'd write them and just put them in a drawer and just keep going and going. In fact, this is how old I am. My first scripts I wrote on a manual typewriter with whiteout and everything. So since then, I've written on a ton of sitcoms. I'm going back to like The Nanny, Coach, Becker. But then I kind of found my way into animation. Eddie Murphy had a show called The PJs. I worked there, and then that kind of led to other animated shows. So that got me to Futurama. I was there for like 6 or 7 seasons. Futurama kept getting canceled. I'd work other shows, like I was on Family Guy for a short time. And so that's kind of the headlines of where I started and what I've done, and and then here we are. And I'm curious now, what is, if you can just tell me in general, is this kind of a class that teaches half-hour sitcom or just writing in general, or?
No, it's just you're just going to talk a little bit about pitching to TV, how, maybe how you got your start pitching like a project and how successful you were, whether using improv was helpful in that aspect. It's kind of like a Q&A. Some people will be asking questions. And
Okay. I can give you kind of the headlines, the basic ideas of what to think about when you're pitching and trying to sell a show. The first thing you need to talk about when you start pitching is when you get to, first of all, when you pitch, you may be pitching to a studio first. Studio you want to bring on board to make your project more impressive. You get other people behind you. The studio can also help set up pitches and that sort of stuff. So, so you may be pitching to studios, or you may be pitching to an actor you want to star in your thing. So you have to get as many kind of people attached to your project as possible to help the people you're pitching to feel more comfortable about saying yes. I developed a project with Nicolas Cage. And so I had to go to Vegas and pitch to Nicolas Cage, like in a diner, like in the middle of the day in Vegas in a diner. And then I had to kind of sell him to the idea. But then when he got on board, all of a sudden, the door is open. People want to hear the pitch. So again, if you can attach as many people as possible. The first thing they want to know is, why are you the person to write this show? Why are you attached to this? How is this part of your life? Like if you're pitching a show about, a Catholic priest and you're Jewish and never had a friend as, you know what I mean? You just got to show some attachment and some investment to the project. And so that should bring out some passion. It's like I'm pitching like a old school, like kind of kid show, a magician who it's kind of like a Pee Wee Herman thing. So for me, for example, it's like the first things that made me laugh as a little kid was those old school kid shows. So I start to talk about how I was enamored with that and how that, brought about the passion for this project. So it's about not making it feel so random. So that's simple enough. What else is important? I even scribbled a few notes. But the pitch, if assuming, say, it's a half hour, the pitch should always kind of feel like a party. It should be relaxed. It should be fun, and you should engage. Let the producers or the buyers come in into your pitch. I think one of the big mistakes people make is they really get into the minutia of a pitch. You really kind of have to hit the headlines and just make it fun and make it simple to digest, because you'll see right away if they start to tune out, then you're in trouble. So the idea is really to just give them enough information in the pitch to make them want to ask a lot of questions after the pitch. If they don't want to ask questions, that could be really great or really bad. But you really want them to come in and start asking questions about, what about that guy? What about that guy? So then that's when you start to get into the minutia, because then it's a dialogue, then it's back and forth, then they're engaged. But they're, especially on Zoom now, they can tune out so fast and glaze over if you start getting into the details, like I am right now, but you know what I'm saying. So in fact, when that question time comes, that Q&A at the end, that's when you have to show that you really know the project. You have to be ready to answer and just, be right on top of it. What else is important? Is there a question?
Yeah, can we step back a little bit and talk about, like, so in the beginning, like, so let's say you finish the script and you want to find people to pitch it to, because you're not going to get right into the studios. You're going to have either pitch showrunners or pitch manager, pitch reps. So what would your first approach be in a situation like that?
If you're coming sort of in cold and you're new and you don't have relationships, is that sort of what you're looking at?
Yeah.
That is the ultimate question. Well, and especially everybody's in New York. Is that kind of what's happening? Yeah.
No, I think everyone's all over the country.
Oh, I see. If you're not sort of in Hollywood, and if you're not kind of in the mix and building relationships and that sort of stuff, what I find that works, and it's a lot of work, is you sign on to IMDb Pro and you look at producers, maybe actors, and their production companies. You kind of look at people who you think would be best for your project, and then look for, even if it's the assistant, and I kind of recommend the assistant, you just kind of shoot an email to the assistant and just basically explain who you are and what you have and why this project would be great for that person or that production company. So it's just a simple, non-stocky, just, let's talk about this, what makes it hard though, too, if they're interested, a lot of the times they're kind of weary about looking at scripts, because if it's not coming in through a rep, then they get worried that, people are going to start suing. They say you stole my idea and that sort of stuff. But if you don't have an agent or manager, you can get a lawyer to send it for you. And sometimes you can track down a showbiz lawyer, someone specifically who does that, which in a lot of cases is sometimes better than an agent. So it's very circuitous, but sometimes people respond, and it can kind of start the ball rolling. So I'm trying to think how else you can kind of, it's funny because my son, who's 22, wants to write as well, and he's been going to school, and I've been trying to help him do the same thing, like what we're talking about now. But the advantage of being in Hollywood is like he can, join an improv group and be within a group of funny people who are always kind of doing the same thing of looking like how to get to the next step in the business. So it's kind of a mind, a hive mind that can help you, and you can learn from them. So it is so tricky if you're not in the mix of Hollywood and kind of being here to knock on doors. But I've heard from other people that it actually has been effective if you go through IMDb Pro and just write a simple professional letter and make it specific and personalized to them, and just try to entice them that way. And if they're interested, there's ways you can get it to them without having an agent, or you can contact an agent and say, someone's interested in reading my thing. Do you want to represent me just for this project? So all this kind of comes under the headline that I talk about always is, as much as you have to learn about the craft of writing, you have to learn how to be your own agent and manager. That's just the way it is. I've been writing for a very long time, and I kind of looked at every single job I've had ever, starting back in like 1980 or whatever. And so I've been on like 50 different staffs. I mean, that includes like, award shows or the Comedy Central roasts and stuff. So I've been on like 50 different staffs, and my representation only got me like 4 of those jobs. So don't think like, oh, if I get an agent, my work is done and they're going to take care of my life. It's almost the opposite in a way. You have to kind of do as much legwork as possible, and don't rely on your agent. I had a writer friend, who said, I haven't worked in 2 years. I said, well, what's going on? He says, well, my agent hasn't called me. And I'm like, you're waiting for your agent to call, you're in trouble, so there's that.
So Max has a question.
Yes.
I do have a question. Okay, unmute. Okay, great. Mike, nice hat. Correct team. Very nice to meet you.
Well, it's cheaper than a hairpiece, you see. That's why.
Ah, I see. You can borrow mine.
See, nobody can say I'm wearing a fake hat. Is that right? Anyway, yes.
I don't know. AI these days, who knows? We're on Zoom. It could very well be fake. So I have 2 questions, but I'm going to keep it to one because I know how valuable this time is. So you just said a couple things that really struck with me. Networking being 90%, and you having to do your own legwork and pitch yourself. Here's what I just I know how to talk. I went to college. You said you started in comedy, and you knew a bunch of comedians. I know one person that has done this in New York and now lives in LA and is a successful writer. When coming in cold, right? So I just shot a comedy mockumentary in Hawaii. It's done okay. It's done good. We've won some awards, and now I'm absolutely turning it into a series because no one is ever going to make money on a short film. But when coming in cold, as someone who wants to work in comedy and work in 30-minute, would you ever suggest or purport the idea of going straight to the talent that you want to work with and creating a project for them, or just with them in mind, like in their voice, for a specific person without asking them, and then just gifting it to them. If you say have a mutual connection, would you say that's a possible way to create relationships and potentially gain traction?
Um, there's sort of no specific rules of like what's going to work to get traction, but it's funny what you said. I just went through where I had this movie idea that was specific to Sylvester Stallone, and I just wrote it. I just wrote it. I don't know what came over me, but I just wrote it. And as an example of like what I was talking about, I contacted Stallone's personal appearance agent, the one that just books his personal appearance. And I pitched it, because they're more accessible, So I pitched it to her and she's like, I think he would love this. And then she read it and then she moved it on to his producing partners. I mean, it's been sitting there on the desk for weeks, but who knows? But So anyway, it made sort of some steps and it made some progress. But at the same time, because it was very Stallone movie specific, at the same time, while I'm waiting, I rewrote the Stallone specific movie. I rewrote it so it could be any other sort of actor that wants to be an action hero. So it kind of served two purposes, because it went to Stallone, and I've been in the business long enough to know that there's maybe a 9% chance that Stallone is going to read it. But the fact it made some progress, the fact it got some traction, the fact it got some attention is enough to like, okay, there's something here. There's something I'm that's worth spending more time on. So I think that sort of answers your question, because you can write it for someone specific, especially if you're moved by that idea, and then maybe go back and just adjust it so it's not as specific to that person. And at the same time, if it's like, Michael Keaton would be great for this, then sometimes you can just add some stuff that we even make more specific to him to help get attention.
And then you went to a person that was more accessible than like trying to reach out to his agent, which seems brilliant, because why not? That person would love to be able to be the person that brings him a good script, right?
Yeah. I think we're getting someone's colonoscopy on screen here.
Mute their microphones, please.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you very much, Mike.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and then we have in the chat box, somebody wants to know if you should provide any physical materials in the pitch, like when you're pitching, or do you have a trailer or a sizzle?
It's kind of case by case, and I've done all versions of everything, and there's no sort of predicting what they're going to respond to. One thing you should definitely have is sort of like a one-page, really good-looking pitch deck, like a one-page pitch of the show that you could leave behind after you pitch. You can send to that person, because when you pitch, you're pitching to lower and mid-level executives. So most of the time, they don't have the power to say yes or no. But if they really like something, it would be great if then you could send them a really nicely built, very succinct idea of like what the show is. So then they can go to their boss with this piece of paper and go, look, I like this idea. Here's a quick log line with a synopsis and quick character breakdown and episode ideas. Just a good, fun, you could include, like who you would see as the cast and that sort of stuff. Whatever, there's no set rule on how to do that, and just whatever you think is going to help sell this project.
Okay. Then Julia had a question.
Yes. Hi. So we just filmed a 30-minute comedy TV pilot, and we have, very little connections in the industry. I'm an actor as well, so most of my connections are through acting in New York. And I guess I'm just wondering, so once we put it all together, I'm currently working on the pitch deck. We're gonna have maybe like a 2-minute, 3-minute sizzle that we can show folks. Kind of what would you recommend as the plan? We have a broker that reached out to us wanting to help us find additional investors for post-production, and also you know, kind of connect us with distributors, but this person I think has mostly local connections to Michigan, which is where it was filmed, and not necessarily broader. So, you know, in an ideal world, we would find somebody who has the connections to get us somewhere bigger and broader, and, you know, I get us in rooms that we couldn't ourselves. So if you have any advice on that.
First of all, I would use the sizzle reel as the sales tool, and as part of a bigger pitch. I would keep it under 2 minutes, just keep it fast and furious. And when you're pitching it, I would not tell them that I'm talking if you're getting into Hollywood producers and actors, I would not tell them, especially producers, that you have the whole thing shot, because they like the idea of being able to put their mitts into it. But if you can get some interest with that, then at that time you have to kind of decide, do I let them know there's a whole pilot? You know, it's something you have to feel out if it gets traction. But I think it's important to hold off, especially even if you've written a script. Let's say you just wrote a script. If you're pitching to Hollywood people, I would hold off letting them know that you have a script, because again, they want to know that they can participate in the development of this. And I mean, I've heard of cases where kind of what happens is, you know, you do the pitch and they go, we really like this. And then the writer would say, okay, maybe I should get going on a script. Yeah, write a script. And then you kind of wait a little while and you go, I finished my script, you know. That's kind of how I heard it happening, you know. So I don't know who or what or why you would need investors sort of in Michigan or that sort of stuff. I think you kind of need to figure out how to chip your way into, if you really want to sell it as a real kind of network streaming show, just figure out ways to chip your way into the people that make those shows. I don't see why more money needs to be invested into it, you know, or backers or that sort of stuff, you know, unless it's real studios that can get real meetings and real pitches, you know.
Yeah, I think if I guess I was wondering too, with investors or not investors, like agents or developers, if you have any suggestions on how to go about that, or do you think just IMDb Pro and start to reach out to people that way?
I would start with IMDb Pro. Some people talk about even contacting writers, say like myself, just kind of track down writers at different levels in Hollywood and kind of talk about yourself and say, maybe we can start like a little writers circle online, you know. So then that's kind of a way to start to develop relationships with people, really the people that you need to help get you into the system. So that could be another way to do it. I think, you know, I think we do live in an age now, obviously, where technology is really going to be the tool that helps if you're not in Hollywood. It's just learning the different ways to kind of manipulate it to help you get what you need.
Okay, and let's move on to George. My question.
Hi, thank you very much. Hi, Mike. I enjoyed those shows that you wrote. I'm aging myself a little bit, so I remember those. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So actually the lady before me kind of has the same type of question, but I've made 3 films. I have one feature film I produced, written. I have it on Amazon Prime, and I have 2 other films recently I made that's gone through film festivals, and we won a couple awards. And but I have a project, and I wrote another script, and I want to take it to another level. I just don't want to take it to film festivals, win awards, which is great, which is really nice, which I love the indie market. But I really want to take it to, because I think the quality that I've been able to achieve with the very little bit of money. Now I produce these films myself, so I'm pretty much homeless now, even though you see a house. But so I want to pitch it to investors. You talk about sizzle reel. Should I use my previous films and the accolades that I have to help pitch it? and what kind of return on investment can I kind of, that's where I'm stuck at. Like, how do I offer somebody a return on investment that a film that's just going into, film festivals and that type of deal?
I don't have a ton of experience on the film festival system, but I kind of always feel like that's the kind of best entree to get noticed. I mean, there's so many film festivals now, I don't know which ones even kind of really land, which ones are the really good ones. But again, the same advice would be really building a killer commercial for yourself. Everything from who you are to clips of all the movies you've made, and say, I'm ready to go to the next level. Things are ready to break. I've been getting a lot of attention, so do you want to be in business together? Do you want to help me? Do you want to work with me? And again, I go back to IMDb Pro, but if you can put a killer sizzle reel, with everything from the awards that you won flashing on and that sort of stuff, make it, just grab them, and whether it's IMDb Pro or wherever else, if you can get it to agents and stuff like that, but I think that's key to me. It's just get a killer commercial for yourself,
Awesome. I'm on IMDb Pro. I have my own website.
Okay. All right. Then everybody's going to send you
That's good.
Elizabeth, how are you?
Hi, good. This has been so helpful, so thank you. I have a two-part question. It'll be quick. I just finished a script and I have a meeting with two different literary managers, and I've never had a meeting with a literary manager. And I was wondering if you have any advice on what to look for for a successful one. That's the first thing.
Who are they?
It's Echo Lake Management and then Authentic.
Okay, I really don't know. Are they New York based or LA based?
One is LA, one's New York, but they're both bi-coastal companies.
Oh, you're right. I've been through so many agents and managers. I mean, the obvious thing is if they're passionate, like I've been in agents meetings where you go in and all the agents come in for the meeting, and there's food set up and everything like that. So that's obviously the sign that they're ready to invest in you. But boy, it's really talking. Whenever I ask agents, when I meet with them about their client list, they're always they always keep it close to the vest. But it would be nice if you can just say, where are your clients working? Are they on shows? Are they, like, if you're going in to be a film writer, feature writer, it's like, what have your clients done? You don't even have to know exactly who they are, but just say, are your clients working? What shows are they on? What movies are they doing?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the most important thing. If you show up and they have 6 clients and one's working on local news and the others has a TikTok,
Yeah, right. No, that's good. That's really helpful. And then the other part to that is it common at all to be able to attach yourself as more than just a writer, whether it's producer, actor, whatever, in any capacity when you sell a script? Or generally is it like you sell the script, you're the writer, they can change it, do whatever they want to it?
Well, if you're in the feature world, you have to really get ready for them to change everything.
Okay, no, it's good to know. Okay.
If you're going into the Hollywood system, it's like once you sell it, it goes into the system. You don't even recognize what you wrote, especially comedies. Comedies typically will go through 15 different writers. I've seen scripts go through like 15 different writers and then come back to the original writer and say, can you fix it? So as writers, you really get into a world where there's just not a lot of logic,
Okay.
So it can be frustrating.
Okay. No, that's very helpful and good to know. Thank you.
Hey, Faith, how are you?
Hello.
Hey.
So I am a screenwriter with interest in animation stories. I'm actually here in Atlanta, which has a pretty strong animation community. I have found that building relationships has been very different from building relationships in live action. And I kind of wanted to know if you had that similar experience and what those differences are, if there are any.
Well, not really. In the comedy world, it's sort of like if you are funny and write funny scripts, that's ultimately what it comes down to. It helps me because I've had a long career in animation and have had a bunch of Emmy nominations and an Emmy in animation. So it feels like, why not lead into that as my brand? It's a little more interesting for them. You know what I mean? Where the last multicam thing I worked on was Two Broke Girls, but that was just in the middle of the season, and I worked on one season, but all the surrounding things are animation. So in truth, I like animation better because like if you work on a multicam sitcom, you rewrite the show like every 2 days, and depending on the show, it feels like the writing never ends. So you keep rewriting it until the day you shoot it. And it's just really exhausting. But in animation, you have to kind of lock in the script early, because once it gets in the system, it has to be built, you know, to take so long. Like when I worked on Family Guy, from script to air was 2 years. So to sort of answer your question, I feel like, you know, in fact, I wouldn't, you know, at this stage of your career, I wouldn't limit myself to like, I just want to do animation. I just want to make relationships in animation. It's like, just explore and just write what you write. And then, you know, and just see what you stumble into, you know.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Sam.
All right, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
All right.
Good. So I have a question in the animation world. Most of my experience is in front of the camera, film and TV. Been on a bunch of different things, and I was living in California and wrote this animation pilot that is dear to my heart. This was back, I mean, I've been working on it for 3 or 4 years now. As far as getting the right style of animation, I'm kind of going for this 90s nostalgia feel that I grew up with. And we've had some artists work on that. And my question is, I have the pilot down and I have some like of the main characters sketched out and finalized there. Do I need to have the full season written, or is like a really solid one sheet and then you have like some kind of like the tone and the style and the color palette that you want to use? Is that enough? And then you just kind of go in and do your thing, make it lively, make it a party, and see what happens?
Well, sometimes as part of the pitch, well, usually as part of the pitch, you kind of pitch the basic pilot idea.
Okay.
You know, and the pilot, you got to think there's kind of choices, like, is it a premise pilot? So I don't know if you heard but a premise pilot basically is really setting up all the characters, taking the time and all the exposition.
Right.
And though sometimes, and it depends on the project, you just, as a pilot, write, what would the third episode be? You know, is there a way to get the show, understand the characters in the third episode, which can be a more interesting challenge, but a better read a lot of the times for people who are interested in a show. So in other words, like if you're writing a premise pilot, you have to take a lot of time to do exposition and this and that, and it's a less fun read. So if you can write a pilot idea that's kind of third episode, it can be looser and more fun to read. So to get back to your question, when you're pitching, it's always a good idea. What's the pilot going to be? And you don't pitch the whole season. You pitch after that like 3 or 4 episode ideas, quick, like a paragraph long of main character does this because he hopes that happens. I think I had one more thought about that. I forgot, but that's kind of generally it.
Perfect. Yeah, the pilot feels it's very entertaining and reads very quickly, and it's kind of like, oh, this is the journey that they're about to embark on, and it's like, what's the next? So
Yeah,
that works. Yeah. So just kind of give them like a few main, like little couple sentence paragraphs. It's like, here's where they could end up.
right. And if you want to go further, you can just give a general idea of like season 2 would be about he's going to marry this girl and it's all about the wedding plans. It's like that much of a description. Season 3, they're going to get divorced, but they don't know what to do with the kids. That
Just
is
like
optional, but it helps,
like a season one-liner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
Okay. And then Alyssa Bennett has a question. I don't know if you want to ask it yourself or I can do it for you. She says, can I do a follow-up question about giving or not giving the script in when we have a meeting with Sony or something like that?
I again recommend that you hold off, that you have a script, because they really again want to be able to be involved in the development of the show. So if you get traction with the pitch, and then you have to kind of feel it out as you go. Like, do you pretend that you wrote the script in the few weeks that you come back? But again, here's how just frustrating Hollywood is. At the same time, and I've done this, I would just send out scripts. I would just send out scripts to get attention. So you write a script, you're really happy with it. There were times where then my agent would do a list of like 10, 12, 15 producers and go, let's just send it out and see how they react. That's a different case a little bit, where it's not as much as trying to sell your show, but like if you feel like your script is strong enough, it gets you into rooms with producers just to get to know each other. And sometimes if they really like it, they may do like a small development deal, either based on that project or they have other projects or that sort of thing. So the script itself, when you're not just solely trying to sell it, the script can be a tool just to get in the rooms, talk to producers, and just start to build relationships that way.
So no, thank you. Actually, that's good to know. I think that the thing that, so I'm at a place where I have an EP. I'm a director, and I'm like a director and like co-writer on this project, and so we have an EP who's getting us in rooms for like Sony and a few others. So it is based on the idea and the deck, but the deck has us as writers in it. And I understand, like, if this is a series, is that should we remove ourselves as writers from the deck, or should we just put ourselves in as creators so as not to, do you know what I'm saying? Like, not to encumber, we do want to write it, but we're
Right.
actually open, we understand the flexibility that everybody seems to want, even though the script is the most important thing. And that is what it's based on. It's sort of strange, but.
Right. What typically happens if a production company or an actor or somebody wants to invest in an idea and the writers are new, first, to answer your question, you keep your name on there as writers. But if you're a new writer and they really like the idea and they want to invest in it, that's like where I've been a lot in my career at this point, where my manager would bring young writers to me and say, look, people are interested in this project. They got a studio attached, and they would need someone who's, whether it's very experienced or a showrunner, to come in to kind of bring confidence to the project. They know that the project would be in good hands. So your name would stay on as a writer. And then depending, like someone like me, what my deal would be, it would be, executive producer if it sells. Or unfortunately, a lot of that for me sometimes is free work. It's like, do you want to take the chance? Do you like this idea? Not a lot. Do you want to sit and develop with these people? And then with the studio and everyone else, you shape it. And then you have, like someone like me, you have a showrunner attached. They feel more confident with the project, so you can stay on as writers, So yeah, do not take your name off and let them know you want to be the writers and creators. You would get created by credit as well. And all those things are pretty much understood, and how they exactly land, you don't have to worry about it until someone's really interested and want to buy it, But I hope that gives you an idea of.
Yeah, I think so. Just to have, it's like you have, use your script as a sample script. It's sort of like we have so we have a series and we have a couple of sample scripts. And so present it that way, meaning we may rewrite it, we may choose different episodes, we may, so that kind of flexibility is good.
That's at the pitching stage, you say, or after you get moving forward on it?
We're just at the point where we're actually going into a meeting with people like Sony and so on, based on the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, that first part was like, do I say we have a couple of sample scripts, or do I say we have a script or two, but we're very flexible about how we write the rest of it, or which ones we write? I'm just trying to find the right amount of flexibility that still puts forth what we do have. And I think the strength of the writing that is there, it's
right. Well, it's tricky. And this is where the agents or managers come in handy, because usually or hopefully they have relationships with these people and they pitched those people before. So the agent or manager at least have a clue of like, no, they like to be hands-on, or no, they would love to read the script, or your agent or manager knows your script and knows how to best use it as a tool. So it's a hard thing to answer, because again, the frustration of Hollywood, there's no hard, fast rules. I think ultimately part of it is, as you yourself go through the process, it's kind of really listening to your instincts and just trying to interpret the personality of these producers, I guess. But typically they like to have their hands in it. Again, I keep repeating myself, but they like to be in on the development of it, so yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, I don't mean to monopolize it all, but we had an agent before the pandemic, and now we're without, but we have an EP. So do you think that we should try to, re-sign with some? I mean, that's where we're at too. It's like, just, we haven't found someone that we want to work with yet. Do you think that that's something detrimental that we don't have an agent at the moment?
Not necessarily. I mean, if you got in the room, and that's kind of what the agent needs to do first, is get you in rooms. So I don't think you need an agent at the moment if you got their attention, so again, it's hard. It's like,
yes,
it's a risk, you got to, I guess you just ultimately got to go with your instincts and tune into those producers and see what feels best, and hopefully the EP wouldn't have a little bit of a better answer on that too, if it's an experienced person,
Thank you. I hope it was helpful to other people. Thank you for the time.
Okay, Max.
I thought it was helpful, Alyssa. Thank you. Okay, Mike, I have 3 short questions, and they can be short answers to respect everybody's time, especially Andy, who crushes each one of these all day long in a row. Number 1, pitch deck. Do you use visual comps, and also / do you even get to involve a pitch Bible by that point?
I do not recommend the Bible unless you feel like the Bible is really going to help you when it comes time to pitch, and just really letting the pitch become part of your DNA. People do a Bible sometimes because it just, the whole project becomes ingrained in their brain, especially when you're pitching and it comes time for the Q&A afterwards. You just know everything about it. It's a little bit of, putting the cart before the horse, but if you're driven to do that, then you should do that.
What about using visual comps as part of your pitch deck?
Well, certainly for animation, I do that, just to give them a general idea of the characters, what they look like, and that'll kind of give the tone of the animation a little bit. Like I'm pitching one now where it's very character driven and emotional driven. So I, make sure I got, I show I able to pop on pictures of like, okay, since it's an emotional show, you can see in an animation, it's more detailed. You can see the emotion in their face, that sort of stuff. So, but I anything visual, I actually recommend, because here's another frustrating thing about who you're pitching to and who you're developing with. Like, as writers, everyone kind of has very visual brain. So as you're writing, most of us, we're watching the movie in our head and we're able to see it. A lot of times you're pitching to people who don't have that thing in their brain. You're pitching and they don't have the capacity to really see the movie in their head, which is really frustrating. And I'm not sure how they got their jobs, to listen to writers. But so yeah, answer your question, visual stuff will help.
Last one, and then I promise, Andy, I'll throw it back to someone else. Mike, now that we're post-pandemic and we're all talking on Zoom, and it is such a great platform for communicating, besides being in LA for meetings or New York for meetings, is it possible to work writing for a series remotely via Zoom? And how many writing rooms or collaborators are working solely through Zoom just because it's easier and saves time?
Since the pandemic, everything I've done has been in my office. In fact, the last thing I worked on, there's a show in Canada called The Trailer Park Boys. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it, but they brought me in to turn it into an animated series. And then we did 2 seasons. The pandemic hit and we had the scripts written. And then I had to learn how to direct the show online. So we figured out how to do that, do the records on Zoom. So I really think in the near future and in your careers, you will get to live where you want to live anywhere in the country. I believe almost all rooms are going to go to Zoom. I'm supposed to be going back to Futurama. I was on another project when they did the last season, but they did 20 episodes all on Zoom. Nobody was in a room. And I think that's just the way it's going to be. Especially in LA, it's just so expensive to live out here. And then the new dynamics of writing and writers' salaries and everything that we had to strike over, things are still not the same. There's still not going to be as many giant paychecks as there used to be in the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s. The whole dynamic has shifted. So writers, I think, are all going to want to eventually, I think they need to establish their career first, but they're going to eventually end up just living all around the country and doing everything on Zoom. All my development has been on Zoom. When I pitch, you have your desktops now. And so you have kind of your script alongside where you have your own monitor. So you got your whole pitch in front of you. Then you pop in visuals as you're pitching. So it's just much more efficient. And it's kind of more like a TV show now they have on their desktop. So it's not there yet, but I think really that's where it's going. And if you're new and this is your young careers, that's something to think about. And I think that's where we're headed.
Even initial meetings with someone?
Yes. All my meetings, general meetings especially, because, there were times where I would have my new agent would send me out to 10 different meetings in 3 days, and I'm just driving all around LA the whole time. But now you just pop on Zoom and it serves the same purpose.
Or sitting on the 101 in LA. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Janae. How you doing? You have a question?
Hey, Andy, great pronunciation today. So, Mike, this is so great. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm a longtime journalist and a baby screenwriter. And my question is about introversion and using tools to overcome it. So having the pitch on the screen is great for Zoom pitching. On the rare occasion when we do get to pitch in person, and I have had one opportunity to do that in a cafe last year, I feel like I have to have my notes. Do you think that's a total killer to start referring to notes or even read a short paragraph before making that eye contact again? I feel like I have to have that tool because my nervousness will set it in and I'll get a frozen brain. Do you think I should do everything in my power to get rid of the notes, or is this okay?
Well, it's funny because I kind of started the same way, right? And first thing I could say is that the nervousness will start to go away as you start to figure it out and start to learn tricks of like how to get past everything and learn how to set your brain, the way that'll work best when you're in the meeting. But if you can't get past that, it's really about learning then, if you're going to use notes, how to make that just part of the fun thing. A lot of time producers know writers are introverted. That's just who we are. And a lot of times they experience that so much. So I think going in, you at least know, like, well, they've already saw 8 people today that are like me. So that, they really listen to the idea. It does help if you just figure out ways how to make it fun, how to engage them, even if you're kind of looking down and, it's practice. It's, when I pitch, my first thing is right before the pitch, I'll say my pitch out loud 10 times. I say it out loud 10 times. And sometimes I'll turn music loud while I'm pitching. So it creates distraction. Like, okay, I got to fight distraction. There's music coming in my head. So I find as many ways as I can to make it hard on myself. Sometimes I practice while I'm pitching. I practice losing my place. I practice freezing up. How do I handle it? What's a way to get out of it? You know what I mean? So that has been helpful to me. But don't worry so much, just if it's a really great idea, that's kind of the most important thing in there. They've seen us be very shy and introverted, and they know that's part of the deal.
All right, thank you so much. Those were great tips.
Okay.
And Julia, second question.
Yes. So I'm bringing it back to pitch decks, but since we did film the pilot and even if we do bring a sizzle, my idea to kind of elevate our actors, I'm one of the actors on there, so I'm not trying to, not about me, but the 2 main leads are just phenomenal. And I would want, to kind of put them in the forefront as much as I could in a pitch. And so having their faces in the pitch for the characters is, in my mind, kind of doing a service to the project and to them as well in their craft. But something that you said, kind of having that flexibility, would it be better to have actors faces that they could say like, okay, so that's Jennifer Aniston from Morning Show, this is kind of our that character, our vision for this particular role?
Well, yeah, if you can cast it with someone who creates if they look at it right away and go, oh yeah, I can see this is a Bill Murray type, so yeah, this is going to be a big silly guy. It helps again because they just have trouble visualizing, and as much as input you can give them visually to help them understand is really going to be helpful.
So you think
yeah.
So somebody famous instead of the actors we currently have playing.
Yeah, because if you're pitching to Hollywood and the producers and that whole system, like, it's going to be hard for them not only to bring in an unknown writer and a early young someone who's not written a lot of scripts, and at the same time they're not going to be drawn to unknown actors. I mean, they can if they're great, but there's so many variables you're kind of putting on the table for them. There's producers are all about risk. When you're pitching to a producer, they're mostly thinking about how is this going to help my job, or if you're pitching to a top producer, how's this going to help my network? But most, in your young stages, are going to be pitching to mid-level producers who are, while you're pitching, are thinking, is this a project I can go to my boss with that he's going to get excited about? So I forgot why I thought the idea, but it's just important that you just getting that mid-level person to really get excited about the idea and wanting to bring it to their boss. So just know that you're even when you're pitching, you're at the first step of 3 that, so yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Great. And Jojo, you had a question? Get to wrap up fairly soon. Can you unmute? Jojo
passed out.
Jojo's gone.
It's too much information. He had brain download.
Okay, well, so that should wrap up the hour. Thanks so much.
I should say, I'm during the strike, I had like a script consulting service. If someone wants to come to me, I mean, since we've kind of bonded here, but I can work out a deal if you feel like you have a script that you want me to go through. And what I've been doing is I take these scripts, they're all new writers, and I go through top to bottom, everything from formatting to making sure the story is being told in the best way, to make sure the characters are clear and all that stuff. So my approach is I do writing 101. I don't take someone's script and like pull it apart and say, no, this and that. I look at scripts and make sure your vision is being told in the cleanest, clearest way possible, to make sure, like, here's the truth. Like when you're writing a script and you're sending it out, let's say, you have 5, maybe 10 pages to get that reader, that producer, to fall in love with your script. If they see typos, if they see formatting issues, and they're on page 4, they just put it down. They're done, So if anyone's interested in like that kind of help to make sure you're not blowing your chances just because of simple mistakes or lack of clarity or that sort of stuff, you can contact me and see if you want to work something out or something. But I'm still doing that because I'm waiting for stuff. I'm still got I'm sitting and waiting for these shows to start, and I don't know when that's happening. So I'm just putting that out there.
You want to put your information in the chat box so people can contact you?
I'll try my best to do that. All right.
And then for anybody else who wants to stick around a little bit after Mike leaves to do a little networking, maybe exchange information, I'll stick around for 5 or 10 more minutes, and we can talk for a little.
I'll make sure I got this right. Okay. So yeah, or even here's my email's on there, and if you just want to, if you have a couple more questions or that sort of stuff too, and I'll see if I can help you out. So yeah, if you're asking if you want me to stick around, I can. If people have a couple more questions, I don't know if you need to jump off, but
no, I was gonna do like a networking, like people are kind of want to talk about exchanging, keeping in touch with each other, and that way you can expand your network of writers. So you're welcome to stick around if anybody.
Or if you've heard enough.
And Max, you can unmute and ask a question.
Mike, I wanted to say thanks again, and wanted to ask you, like, if you get to the point where you get the good question, what else you got? Is having just a treatment enough at that point for an idea, or instead of having a full fleshed out script, especially since you're saying, and I've heard before, that they want to be able to, even if you plant it in their mind, like, yeah, I want you to be a part of the
if you pitch and they didn't jump on the pitch, and then ask what else you got, say, you could say, here's another thing I'm working on, and you pitch like basically the log line or a quick thing, and then say, if let's reschedule, and I can bring the full pitch in.
Have you ever pitched without a script, just the treatment?
Yeah, I mean, I rarely have the script written when I go in and pitch. I just usually have the pitch deck, and the full-fledged pitch. So yeah.
Cool, thank you.
I have to go, but I just wanted to thank you also, and thank everybody. And I would definitely be interested in hearing response on a script or two that were in, why not be so ready? And I just wanted to offer, because I have a film studio called Stone Street Studios, and we have this incredible residency program that is primarily for actor hyphenates, but it's good for people who are doing other things. If they need to create, sizzle reels or they need to create content. We're a film studio, and this residency gives us a lot of options. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to help other people as well. It's Stone Street Studios, and you can find my email there, or happy to give it. It's up to you. But should we get your email? Is it in the chat?
Yeah.
It should be, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. This was amazing. Much better than I thought.
If I may, I figure I'll put my book on there. My book is about my journey through writing, starting with comedy, and like what breaks I had and what things I blew along the way and how that led to the next job. It might be helpful to some of you, but I'll just throw it on there, and it's on Amazon. I guess I can't share anymore. Anyway, it's on Amazon. It's called It's a Funny Thing. So if anyone's interested, might be helpful.
Sure. Rowe, how you doing? Good to see you
Hey,
again.
Andy, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Mike. This was fantastic. I'm really happy to hear all about the animation people on the team as well. And just Andy has been like my guiding guy, kind of like the I don't know, like he zooms in every so often throughout the entire course of 2022 and 2023, getting me to a place where I am today. Guys, I'm killing it right now in the approach, and I'll tell you why. Here's what I did. I've been working on a project called, it's an animated feature film. Well, it's actually it's a franchise, and it juxtaposes taking place in about 193 years in the future on Mars, on early settlement on Mars, juxtaposing with children's art education of art. So I am a 25-year oil painter, contemporary oil painter. You can see some of my work. It has videos embedded in oil paintings. One of my pieces in art is going to the moon, people. Hello. I mean, it's embossed on a disc going to space. I just got into Davos. I've been at the Smithsonian, yada, yada. So I have great contemporary art background. Pivoted because I really wanted to tell the story of art education with children and about art and how to make it more approachable. So I developed this character exactly 7 years ago when I was called into the office, principal's office, by my daughter's principal. Says, your daughter won't stop crying. And that's the day after the presidential 2016 election. And I wanted to, in my heart of hearts, equip kids with the tools to speak up for the tools to work through their emotions, to speak up for freedoms. And 7 years later, I have on December 15th, pray a little prayer for me, a lead investor. And this is the thing. I have decided to take all the best practices of feature film animation, indie films. So raise the money, do what you got to do, be the producer. I'm also going to take all the best practices of not just animation, but I want to disrupt the animation industry because I want to plan for 2030 kids. What is the expectation for the audiences of 2030? So the feature film I'm working on, we worked until we got to DreamWorks in 2020, where we just sort of showed them, etc. a little bit, got 6 feedback points. Then work. 2023, we've been top 10 animation film industry competitions, hitting it in like semi-film, in this, yada, yada. Film, it's doing really well. We got actors to reenact the entire thing. So this way you have these busy producers, busy this, just have them press play on Vimeo. Take the time to make it quality ready so that people have to very little think. Then what you do is you try to bring, like you said, attach talent, attach finance. Number one rule: you bring the money, you keep the control. This character, this love letter to my inner child, I'm not going to necessarily give him up. You can offer me $3 million today. I won't take it right away. I will rather go for the 1 billion franchise that I'm creating to sell off to Disney in 2049, whatever it is. And I know you think I'm an arrogant, you think I'm a shit. I don't care. What I'm planning to do is I'm planning to make sure that when animation hits the industry, I make a team that is 51% more below the line, comprised of women or non-binary, so that we are disrupting the boys club. so that we are taking kids on an animated journey of not just art, not just film, not just science, but everything. And for a future generation. And this is what I want to do. And we're working with CGI, like advanced augmented reality, as well as base animation, so that you bring the cost down. And so we've got film financing companies that I've employed. I have a lawyer on retainer. We have a talent agent. We have film financing. And anybody who wants to be part of my little animation coaching, any little squad, or Mike, if you can help me and be part of my squad and we can put you on retainer, let's just do a weekly call and just make animation better again. What do you think? Sorry to talk too much. Sorry to take up your call. But I'm not actually. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. I think I'm not sorry.
First of all, it sounds like you're doing better than most projects I'm working on. I mean, it feels like you have it under control and you have a clear vision and you have the drive to get what you want. I mean, you're just on your way. I don't know how I can help. I mean, it seems like you know what you're doing and you know exactly what you want. That's the biggest thing, and that'll get you to where you need to go, I think. Well,
let's keep if there's any best practices we can share together. As Einstein always says, it's like you can't solve the problem with the same consciousness that created it. You need to up the consciousness level. So that's team. And if you think that there's like a weekly, someone on the call said something about Atlanta. Like if we want to do like a weekly Atlanta, or a weekly animation just check-in or just support groups, because it's a niche. I just went to the gala. I went to the World Animation Gala, and I think it's just like it's a really important thing to like keep that industry raising the consciousness for kids for the next generation. And so
right. Yeah, well, you can.
I'll email you, so we'll take it from there,
and we'll see what. But it sounds great. I mean, it sounds it's you have exactly what you need, is that
great
drive that you're not taking no for an answer,
Yeah, and now I just got to go raise that measly 75 million, and I'll be good to go. Got to go, guys. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Andy. Thank you again, Andy. Thank you. Bye.
And anyone can feel free to email me. My address is at the bottom of my screen. And gonna have to wrap up for today, but thanks a lot again, Mike, and thanks for all your questions.
Okay, and I did find a link for my book if everybody's interested. It's on that thing, so I don't know, and if you want to email if you have just more questions or any way I could help or that sort of thing, I'm here. So all right, great. Good luck to everyone and all that stuff. It's going to be a long journey. You get your ass kicked a lot, but it's worth it.
All right, so long, everyone.
Thanks.